Neville C. said I have a wound. He got a haircut. Can you tell? He got a bath and a haircut. 2 bits. How about you? Would you like to get it this time and not drop it? It's cold and windy, and my hair is probably a total mess after being outside, but I didn't even bother to try to do anything more with it, guys, because guess what? It was just going to be a mess by the time I got here. So you get raw Shatona. I'm back in my comfy sweater because it's cold and blustery. So I've got a nice cup of hot tea with my Greenville, Tennessee mug. Isn't it cool? I put in Harney and Sons because it's the one that I mind the least if it gets lukewarm. Because, you know, I get to talking and then I don't drink. Because the last thing you want to do is see me drink. I try to cut that out for you guys because watching people drink can be, well, especially with a straw, can be kind of gross. But, you know, you got to do what you got to do. So, okay, this is what we're doing. Chantal on her Patreon, highly recommend her Patreon. Anyway, she did a tag, which I have promptly forgotten the name of. So I'm going to go back. I think it's the next book tag, but let's make sure I even know what I'm talking about. Because reasons and such. Yeah, the next book challenge, next book tag, whatever. So she's got next book tag on her video. She's got the next book challenge in her title. So I think she was covering Herbaceous too, or at least I'm going to pretend like that's it. So I watched it, really had fun, and I remembered, obviously, it's going to ask what the next book you're going to read is, right? I mean, that's obvious. But I didn't let myself think about it too much because I didn't want to remember the other questions. I had nebulous ideas of what might be in there. I thought I remember something about a 5-star. Wasn't sure. And, you know, stuff. But I didn't want to think about it until tonight when I came in here and I sat down to plan what I'm going to read for this week because I didn't want those questions to influence too much or to change. I mean, for one thing, I could say the next book, I guarantee you one of the books that I read this week would have been on that list, and I've already read it, so then I would have to do it over anyway. But I really wanted it to be as fresh, and this is what's happening, and you'll see later that boy was it fresh. So there are 8 questions in this challenge / tag thing, and I am ready for them. So the first one, I wonder, can I take a drink yet? It's so hot still. It wasn't. It got to downright cold by the time I got out here, realized that I had to do something, and then got over here. I had to go back in and put it in the microwave, and putting tea in the microwave is just so sad. And it's still a little... It's right on the edge of too warm. Doesn't burn my tongue, but it will burn my lips. So, you know, for what it's worth. Anyway, so all that aside, deep breath. Hi, how you doing? Okay. First up, it asks what the next book you will read is. And I pulled one off of my 60 by 60 because I wanted one, but B, I just happened to see the title, and I was thinking about this earlier in the week. I was like, oh, I need to read that soon because it's spring, and this sounds like a very springy title. So, and then I was like, oh yeah, and you know, so I chose Time of the Singing of Birds by Grace Livingston Hill. I also was talking to an author about Grace Livingston Hill recently, and that was part of it, I'm sure. But anyway, Time of the Singing of Birds. It says, this is the story of Lieutenant Barney Vance, invalided home to rest, bearing trophies of brave deeds and valiant daring, and of the problems and difficulties he found in adjusting himself again to the life he had left behind him. For a gulf widens between the soldier of the front and the civilians who can know only indirectly of his experiences and the profound change wrought in a man by contrast. Again, Mrs. Hill has taken a timely and significant theme and developed around it a vital living story which will appeal to her multitude of readers. You will be meeting Lieutenant Vance's gay, strong pal, Stormy Applegate, and his horde of young hero-worshipping boyfriends. it sounds really funny in today's language because we have changed the meaning of those words. Anyway, you will get to know his attractive group of former girlfriends and figuring out just which one he is going to marry. You will be interested also in studying just how he made clear to all of them what a difference the war had made in his life. The Time of Singing of Birds is a romance of our day, which carries a special message of cheer and comfort for those whose lives have been caught up and changed by the war. And I'm like, come on. Come on. So I think I will go ahead and read the first lines because why not? And because these are my TBR this week. So, you know, as soon as I get done with this, the tag will be over. And then if you don't care about what I have read, you just move along and life is good. But if you do, then I'm going to talk about that too. Anyway, the birds were singing madly in the old orchard around the house where Barney Vance woke up that first morning back in the old house where he was born and brought up and where, 2 years before, he had kissed his mother goodbye to go across the seas and fight. You know, it's really funny. It's not all that intriguing as far as, you know, pack you into the action, but there is something very settling about that. I like it. I like it. Okay, we're going to put that up there. Okay, number 2. It says, what is the next book you hope to buy? And for me, that is the next in the Lord Edgington Investigates Abroad, Death on the Night Train to Verona. And I have pulled it up so that I can read about it. And actually, I can even, because Amazon is so sweet, I can even read the first sentence. Anyway, so the Lord Edgington Investigates series was, you know, is one that I highly recommend, love, and I've read almost all of them, listened to almost all of them, but then I think there are maybe 2 more that aren't on audio yet, but the first one of these, the Murder at the Castle one in Italy, that one is already on audio, so I've listened to it, and this will be the next one I listen to. So this is the one I want to buy so bad, but I can't because it's not available yet. Anyway, it says, everyone wanted a piece of the world's most beloved film star, but who finally took it? Italy, 1929, when renowned detective Lord Edgington boards a luxurious night train in Rome, he hopes for attentive service, fine food, and perhaps a chance to read his book. But a short distance into the journey, screen siren Geraldine de la Forge is slain in her sleeping compartment, and the master sleuth is put to the test. Adored the world over, Geraldine seemed to have the perfect life, but as Lord Edgington and his grandson investigate, a darker picture emerges. Was it her jealous lover, a wealthy patron with secrets to hide, her ambitious director, or an obsessive fan who cut the life from her? The detective must untangle a web of passion, lies, and betrayal to stop the killer from striking again. And it says, a fast-paced, witty, and fiendishly puzzling whodunit in the tradition of Agatha Christie and Dorothy L. Sayers. Death on the Night Train to Verona will send you thundering towards the final destination and one last dizzying twist. And I will say that, yeah, there is something very Christie-esque about the mysteries, and even Sayers-esque, but the writing is much more humorous than either of those. So there's that. So now these books, the point of a character is Christopher, the grandson. He is known as Chrissy by some, and so it's all first person in Christopher's opinions. Anyway, I thought I would struggle to love Rome as much as the places we'd already visited in Italy. Not the most amazing. I won't pretend that I think it is, but that's okay. It's not too shabby. It does make you wonder, you know, wait a minute, you didn't think you were going to love Rome as much as the rest of Italy? I mean, Rome? We're talking Rome here, you know, so okay. But anyway, so that's the next book I hope to buy. Number 3 is, what is the next book with history you will read? Well, This one is kind of obvious because I've already talked about it, and it is this month's Read Your Bookshelf Challenge. So I'm going to read The Warsaw Sisters by Amanda Barrett. It takes place in Poland, World War II, at the beginning of the German invasion, which started World War II. So there's that. But it's about two sisters. They have different paths in Warsaw, both fighting against the Germans. You know, I've talked about it before. I don't want to do that again, but it's the first line, which I recently read, but I'll do it again. Antonia and Helena, hyphenated. That is how I remembered our names, spoken in a single breath, always blended together. So, yeah, that will be my next book with history. I mean, technically, if you want to get technical, Time of the Singing of Birds is after World War II, so it's going to have history. Death on the Night Train to Verona in the 20s, because mystery. Except I think we're pushing into the 30s with those. Anyway, and then the next 1, 2, 3, 4... The next 4 are all got some history stuff too. So, you know, what can I say? But yes. That's my next book with history that I will read. And it says the next book you will probably give 5 stars. I chose a book that I was pretty sure I couldn't not give 5 stars to. Now, I could be wrong, because there have been a couple by this author that I didn't love to pieces. One in particular, I don't know if I gave it 4 or 5 stars. I hated what she did with the story, but I learned so much from it that I gave it a high ranking anyway, even though I hated what she did with the story. I was like, why did you do this? Okay. So anyway, the author is D.E. Stevenson. That's a pretty high chance. And it's Music in the Hills, which is the sequel to, was it Amberwell? No, Victoria Cottage. So Victoria Cottage is the first of the Deering books. I loved that one. And this is when her one son goes to Scotland. And so Scotland, D.E. Stevenson, and the sequel to a book I loved. How is it not going to be 5 stars? So Music in the Hills. And this is one of my 60 by 60s. So I've got this out. I'm really excited. It has the most beautiful end papers. Look at those end papers. I love this book. Anyway, it cracks me up. Who is the publisher? People's Book Club, Chicago. It cracks me up. This must have been a thing at the time, because the way that they're writing the synopsis is just, it's very much like Time of the Singing of Birds. What's the year on this one? 1950. Yeah. It has to be that. Okay. Here's a refreshing, appealing story of love with a beautiful rural setting and with the charm and poignance of a lilting, haunting melody. I feel like Peter Marshall is going to start talking about violence. Anyway, it's the story of the love Mamie and Jack Johnston have for each other, and the deep, trusting love of a happily married couple, and of the love they feel for their farm and their chosen way of life. But it's the story, too, of the more troubled hearts of the younger generation. James Deering, the Johnstons' nephew, has come to live with them and learn farming. He quickly shows a natural bent for the work, but he cannot be truly satisfied with his present or the promise of the future, because golden-haired Rhonda Ware has turned him down for a career in London. Holly Douglas, Lady Steele's pretty gay niece, tries her best to help James forget Rhonda, and Eleanor, Lady Steele's romantic, impetuous young daughter, complicates his life still further. The course of love is far from smooth in youth. To add to the problems, Daniel Reed, the able but unusual shepherd, who is also a newcomer to the farm, becomes the center of a disturbing mystery that leads to an exciting climax. Music in the Hills is a story about likable people which unfolds with suspense and drama, and which will bring delight as well as tug us at the heartstrings. See what I mean? It's just a different kind of, I don't know. There is a foreword, but hey, spring had come to the valley. Not exactly exciting, but that's okay because I'm looking forward to reading it, and I'm pretty certain it's going to be a 5 stars. So there's that one. It says, what is the next book you will likely reread? Well, again, it came from, okay, part of the reason why so much is coming from that shelf is I need to catch up because I hadn't caught up. You know, I did this in January, so I was already 6 months behind. So there's that. Also, my 75 masterpieces is taking forever because I really am taking my time with that. I want to really learn, which means I need to be reading other ones because I can't count on that one as really, you know, helping me along here. And then, you know, we're getting close to the end of the first year. I have 55, 56, 57, 58, 59. So I have all of those years before I hit 60, right? But 55 is almost over. I mean, I've only got like 3 months left. I've got to get some more books written. So I chose a lot from off this shelf because of that, but also because I made myself stick to what is in this room. I did not want to be going back and forth in that weather. I just like, no. So I chose The Squire's Tale because yes, I'm dying for a reread. I've been talking about it all year. I decided I wanted this one. So growing up an orphan on an isolated cottage in the woods with Trevisant the hermit, young Terence never expected much adventure in his life. But one evening, a stranger named Gawain, or is it Gavain? I don't know, shows up and Terence's life takes an odd turn. Gawain, who defeats his first knight armed only with an empty stew pot, is destined to become one of the most famous knights in King Arthur's Round Table. Trevisant, who can read the future, sends Terence off with Gawain to King Arthur's court to become his squire. In no time, Terence is plunged into the exciting worlds of kings, wizards, knights, wars, magic spells, damsels in distress, and enchanters. Soon, out on a quest with Gawain, Terence embarks on a quest of his own to solve the mystery of his parentage. Their journey brings them into another realm where they encounter a helpful sprite named Robin, a castle in the mist, and an evil enchantress intent on destroying King Arthur. There, Terence learns the secret of his past and discovers a challenge that only he can face. I think I'll stop there. And what is the first sentence? Terence crept nervously through the forest, glancing often over his shoulder. Okay. Yep. I can get behind that. Yes. All right. Okay. Then it says, what is the next book in a series you will read? And so one of the things that I'm doing with this tag is I'm not letting myself have anything to do with books that I've already started. So I'm in the middle of another Homefront Sleuths book. That's in a series? No. I'm in the middle of Laura Thomas's book. That's in a series? No. Joanna Davis Napolitano. I'm in the middle of her book. And it's the first in a series. But no, because I'm in the middle. So I had to choose something that I hadn't started yet. Finally, I remembered that I have it waiting to listen to after I get done with the St. Mary's Cipher in the Homefront Sleuths. So the next one is The Afternoon Tea Murders, which I pulled up so that I could read about. This is part of the Secret Detective Agency, which has 2 people, Jane and, what's his name? Arthur. And they are about as opposite in people that you can possibly be. And they keep getting thrown together by people in like the SEO in England during World War II. So, but this one's more spy than straight up mystery. But Afternoon Tea Murder sounds kind of more mystery to me. So this is going to be interesting. But it says an utterly addictive, cozy murder mystery. So this one is definitely going on the mystery side. It says, tea and cakes on the terrace, views of the Devon Hills, and a dead body in the village? This is one for Jane Treen. Okay, London, 1942. Miss Jane Treen is at her desk in Whitehall, sipping strong coffee, when she receives an urgent message about her colleague, codebreaker, Arthur Cilento. He's in danger in Devon, and Jane needs to get there sharpish. But before her bags are properly unpacked, the local tea shop owner in Arthur's village is found lying amidst the scones and tea cakes, and she's dead. When Jane arrives, it quickly becomes clear that murder is a half-baked attempt to curdle Arthur's current code-breaking mission. But how? Okay, see, I knew there'd be something spy-like in there. There seem to be suspects at every turn. Is Arthur's boss going to extremes to cover up his incompetence? Can the tea shop customers be trusted? And what about the secretary, who seems to have secret links to the village tea shop? Spurred on by scones and clotted cream, Jane and Arthur start to whip up a theory as to who the killer could be. But just as they begin to make progress, someone else is murdered, and it looks like Arthur could be next. It's clear they need to solve this case quickly before tea time is over and Arthur meets a sticky end. If you love twisty crime novels, top secret intrigue, and the very best of Golden Age mysteries, then you will adore Helena Dixon's utterly gripping cozy novel, perfect for fans of Agatha Christie. T.E. Kinsey, he's another one, and Verity Bright, who I really enjoyed up to a point. Her lady, Ellie... She calls herself Eleanor something. Anyway, I loved him until she got to Manhattan, and that one just really annoyed me so much that I quit reading. I reading them. I quit listening to them because I was like, yeah, no. So let's find out what the first sentence is, because I don't know why I've never thought to do this before. Oh, how funny! There's T for two is the little epigraph for the whole book. It's like, picture me upon your knee, just T for two. Okay, I'm sorry. I like old music. Anyway, Jane train was cold. Let's move on, because I'm like, wait, what? The small office she occupied in the heart of Whitehall still had frost on the corners of the window. Okay, that still doesn't do it. But the next line, yeah. Inside her sensible, polished, brogue shoes, her feet had turned to blocks of ice. Okay, I like that. Okay. I can get behind that. So, yeah. All right, it says, the next one, it says, what is the next book on your Libby/library shelf? I have nothing that I had planned. And I found a few, but I was looking at a list of all the books and what order they should be read in and who shows up in what, so that, you know, I don't get massive spoilers and such. And I was comparing it to the D.E. Stevenson books I could put on hold. And one of the ones I could put on hold was The Story of Rosabelle Shaw. And I chose to do that because that is a standalone that there's only a slight mention of something in it in another book, according to Google. Okay, so Rosabelle Shaw, I went to Google, I read what Google had to say, and then I saw that there's a Kindle edition, so I went. There's also an audiobook, but I'm not doing this because it has to be the library. Anyway, and I've already reserved it. But it says, but anyway, so I read their synopsis, which includes that it has kind of a Wuthering Heights feel, it says. It's a darker story than usually you get from D.E. Stevenson. Anyway, so this is an actual synopsis, though. Edinburgh. No. An Edwardian family in Scotland takes in a foundling child, but will there be a price to pay? Edinburgh, 1890. The season is in full swing with parties nearly every night, and Fanny is enjoying every moment. Then John Shaw comes to town on business and loses his heart to her. He sets about wooing without delay and eventually brings his young bride to his farmhouse near the sea. Fanny is unhappy at first. John is hard to understand, and she misses the excitement and glamour of city life and the companionship of her sister. But she struggles hard to become a good farmer's wife, and with the help of a strange old book, learns to manage. Rosabelle, their first child, is delightful and soon has a sibling to share her games. Then an unexpected accident occurs, which brings a stranger into the family circle. A strangely fascinating boy whose ways threaten trouble for everyone in the district. Rosabelle Shaw is an engaging story and a subtle study of nature versus nurture and the changes wrought by war. It will appeal not only to Stevenson's many admirers, but also to readers who enjoy character-driven fiction and classic romance. Da, da, da. So, I mean, you know, it's I don't know. The village of Torresford is situated in the lowlands of Scotland, about 5 miles inland from the North Sea. Let's go back to the prologue. It was more interesting. It was a mouthful, but it was more interesting. Okay, prologue. On a certain cold, wet, windy night in Edinburgh in the year 1890, Mr. James Dinwiddie, advocate of Heriot Row, was dining with his friend Mr. Andrew Brown in the latter's comfortable bachelor establishment in Randolph Crescent. At least there's something going on there. It's neither one of them is very I don't know what I'm looking for, but it's not very whatever it is. Not very exciting, but at least the prologue kind of gives you something other than this is where it is. You know? And then the final one is number 8. What is the next new to you author you'll read? Okay, so I just talked to her this week. I immediately ordered her book, and it arrived on Saturday like promised. I was so excited. Thank you, Amazon. And so I had the best time talking with her. I cannot wait for this episode to come out. Even if you guys don't usually listen to the podcast, this is one to listen to. It's Jill Koller, and the book is Heart of a Bowman. And I'm telling you, just listening to her talk about how she built this world and why and where it started and how the things happened and all the ways she went deep into figuring out all the things to make this world work was fascinating. And I knew that I would read it as soon as the book got here. And the book got here. So the book is Heart of a Bowman, Jill Koller. It is the first in the Vertical Horizon series. That's right. This entire world is vertical. And they've got hoists that make stuff go up and down this mountainous kind of sort of land mass. You know, you've got the sky above and the sea below, and the land is vertical. It's really strange. But, these hoists are the only way that stuff gets between places. But there's like 4 different kingdoms with 4 different biomes, and these kingdoms need each other, which is how this works. So they hoist stuff and people between these things. And it's fascinating just how she created it all. And I was like, I had a hard time. I actually did open the book and start to read the first page last night. And I'm like, no, you're not going to do this. You have to finish the book you've already started. But I was that excited. I'm just saying. So anyway, rising from the endless sea is the vertical horizon, a massive rock spire holding 4 tiers of kingdoms. 4 truth stones, one for each of the spire's interdependent tierdoms, help maintain a delicate power balance. But when a stone is stolen, the spire is plunged into war. 17-year-old Princess Aratus. Princess Aratus? I don't know. Of Ardinia is destined for the shallow life of the royal court and an arranged marriage to a selfish prince. But she longs to serve her people in a different way. For years, she's practiced archery in secret, and when the chance arrives, she matches her talents against Colt, an elite king's bowman. Fiercely loyal to the crown, 20-year-old Colt questions how his mother's people, the Regic, could betray the realm. He also questions the judgment, though not the skills, of the fiery young woman who has inserted herself into his mission. Tess keeps her identity a secret, knowing Colt would forbid his princess from risking her life. Colt, meanwhile, strives to keep a secret of his own, his growing feelings for Tess. Anyway, as Regic overrun Coster's capital, Colt and Tess escape skyward to warn the king of Ardinia and mount a counterattack. Desperate, they enlist the help of Deacon, Colt's estranged childhood friend, and a lighter-than-aircraft pirate. They call them Mist Raiders. I love that's what they call the pirates, mist raiders. Anyway, will Colt, Tess, Deacon, and a motley crew of pirates prove enough to stave off invasion and turn the tide of war? So excited about this book. Okay, I will confess this will probably be the first one that I read. But anyway, yeah, that one and Time of the Singing of Birds. But I have to get Warsaw Sisters pretty quickly. So anyway, those are the 8 questions. I don't know if it's a true tag or not, and I don't usually actually tag anyone, but I'm going to do something that, again, I don't usually do. I'm actually going to tag Shalise, and I'm doing it right now because right now is the time that she absolutely cannot do this. They are about to move. They're about to have company. My daughters are going to see them if they have plane tickets. I have the sinking suspicion they're on Spirit, and so that may not be happening. We'll see, but you know, lots going on there, which is why I'm doing it now, because it's so easy for her to just say, someday, Mom, and move along. And then when she needs something to distract her, whatever, there's like this thing that, hey, Mom said, do this tag. So I'm doing this only for that reason. If she never does it, oh, well, because nobody is obligated even when you want to tag, right? But I thought, hey, why not? But I think it would be a fun one. I would like to see other people do this, because this was really, it was really neat, because it's very immediate what's coming up next. And I had to actually choose a book and, you know, find one from, you know, the library and do all those things, right? So I thought, it was really a neat one. It's one of the ones I've enjoyed the most. You know, creating my own bookstore, that one was my favorite. But this is a pretty close second. Okay, so if you're here for the tag is over. And now I'm going to talk about what I read. So this was a good reading week. And I finished 4 books, 4.5. I'm over half done with the St. Mary's Cipher. It is so good. Anyway, but the first one that I finished was The Puzzle Within by Gina Holder. So, okay, The Puzzle Within. I had no idea how much I was going to love this book. I knew I would like it, but I was really reading it because the next one is almost here, or it's just barely out. I don't remember which. It is the Escape Game, I think is what it's called. Something like that. I don't know. Anyway, but it's out soon if it's not out, and I want to read it. I don't even think they're connected beyond maybe a character, but there's no overlap in stories. I'm pretty sure Gina said you read it whenever you want to. So, you know, but I just, as a general rule, I can't do that. I just can't. I just can't. So, anyway, this one, we have one of those situations where everything that could go wrong did. Everything, it's constantly twisting and turning who you think did it, didn't, and sometimes did, but still didn't, and all the things. So you have Arizona Powers, who grew up without parents. She lived with her aunt. Mom died when she was young. Dad died when she was even younger. So we don't know, you know, a lot about that past because her parents worked for the government. So that's all they know, right? Well, she works for the FBI in abduction. Her job is to recover abducted children and stop the people who are after them. And she kind of loses it. And so now she's been out of work for 6 months while she recuperates. She had a mental breakdown. And now she wants to be back, and she thinks she's got it. And so she gets taken back as basically a bodyguard. She's there to watch an ambassador's daughter, and she doesn't want to. For one thing, she's already watched this little brat and when she was little, and now this child is older and, you know, a teenager and full of herself even more so. But she has to do it. She has her own bodyguard. She's got a guy that is there to assess risk and everything with her. And the point being, you know, they just want to keep this girl alive because there's been a threat against the ambassador and his daughter, and it seems to be pointed at the daughter rather than the ambassador. So they're going to do this thing. And the very first thing that happens is they go to an escape room, and let's face it, they're going to be locked in there. So it should be pretty safe. No, she's abducted from there, and it goes from there. And they are on a wild ride to try to find her. They're not supposed to be doing anything. They've both been suspended, but they get a notice saying, if you do not keep going and trying to find her, she will die. And if you tell anyone what you're doing, she will die. And you will die, and everybody's going to die. So just play the game, people. And there's so many layers of what and why and how. It was so good. It was one of those things where I knew I'd like it, but it has the potential to be on my top 10 for the year. It was that good. And like on that tag, you know, it said your predicted 5-star read. I wouldn't have put this on there, but I'll put the next book on there. Not because I was already looking forward to it because of the story that I know about that one, but because this was so good. I don't see how that can't be as good or better. So anyway, this is not her debut novel. She has other books. This is her first with Scrivenings Press. She won their Get Published contest, and solid. Congratulations, Scrivenings. You just got yourself a great author. And to any other publisher who chose not to take it, if she submitted it, I don't know if she did. Your loss. I'm just saying, it was that good. I can't remember anything in there that made me go, ugh, yeah, that's really not my favorite. I can't remember. That doesn't mean it didn't happen, because almost every book has something, right? But I don't remember any. This one, since I haven't talked about it, I will read the synopsis. This is a book haul book. It came in and I immediately started reading. It is The Unforgettable Mailman by April Howells. This is General Market. And it is her debut novel. So if you're looking for a debut novel and you don't mind a small smattering of foul words, there is a small smattering across the whole book. Far less than you will get from John Sebastian Farrell in an Emily Halifax, that's for sure. There's just here and there. Don't appreciate it. Wish they weren't there, but it didn't like just beat at me or anything. So anyway, it says, it's never too late for the adventure of a lifetime, even if you can't remember why you started. The Unforgettable Mailman is a heartwarming story about intergenerational friendship and the power of human connection, perfect for fans of Frederick Bachman. And yeah, you will get a sort of, kind of a little bit of a feel of A Man Called Uva in here. Not quite, but almost. 1966, Chicago. Backlogged with millions of undelivered letters, like 10 million. The post office announces a temporary closure. This actually happened, by the way. But 81-year-old Henry Walton can't stand idly by when there's mail waiting to be delivered. He believes letters are what keep people connected, and he's not about to let them get lost in the chaos. Plus, connection keeps the mind sharp, according to a note someone's pinned up on his kitchen. While the post office scrambles to get things under control, Henry races against time and forgetfulness. Taking it upon himself to deliver the mail, he discovers hatred and tragedy, triumph and joy in the letters he carries and the people he meets along the way. Inspired by true events, this delightful story will linger with readers long after they turn the last page and might just inspire someone to write a letter the old-fashioned way. And yes, absolutely it did. So I will go ahead and read the first line since I haven't done that yet. A note on the counter prompted Henry to shave every day. It's one of those things where if I had read that before I read the book, I mean, you know, like I get the book and I read the line and I go, yeah. If I hadn't just been opening it to read, I would have thought that was kind of a meh opening line. But having read the book, it's actually a really great one for the book. So there's that. Okay, so this one. Henry has dementia. He lives alone in his, little, like, house, townhouse, I don't know, in Chicago, and he remembers things out of order. He doesn't remember some things. Sometimes he's always wondering where his wife is. You know, what is she out getting groceries? What's going on? He goes to the store. He buys the same things every day. He forgets that he's eaten, so he eats again. Just lots of little things like that. And he finds out about this mail, and he is livid. So he gets his friend to go with him to the post office. They break in. He steals 300 letters, and he goes off on a mission to deliver these letters. And he's got to do it. He doesn't realize this, but he has to do it before they catch up to him, because when the post office guy in charge of that post office finds out that letters have been stolen, he is determined to nail this guy, right? And so first he delivers the Chicago letters. He takes them to places. Some people are really happy to see them. Others aren't. There's some horrible stuff that happens in here. Not mostly to Henry. Mostly people are pretty nice to him, but people get terrible letters, horrible letters, and wonderful letters, and mundane letters. There was one, it was so funny. This lady, you know, she gets a letter that says, "I got the new Montgomery Ward catalog, and look at this dress. I think it would look great on you. Let me know what you think. Oh, and do you think I should get olive for me? Tell me right away and I'll order them." You know, I mean, she's just like all excited about this dress. I mean, it was just all, you get Dear John letters, you get all kinds of stuff. You get racist hate mail that he's delivering this. He doesn't know that he is. He doesn't know what he's delivering. There's so much. And along the way, he goes from Chicago, but not all the letters are in Chicago. So he has to drive to Davenport, Iowa, and Minneapolis, and the Dakotas, and did he go down to Kansas City? I feel like maybe. But then also Nebraska. I know he went to Nebraska. But then also up to Winnipeg, Canada. He's just like, the people at the border are like, what are you talking about? You know, and he can't remember so much. And then along the way, he meets someone who helps him, and they forge a really cool friendship. It is just such a delightful, 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 delightful book. And the ending is powerful. It just, this top 10 this year, for sure. And Theo of Golden. I feel like, and this book is nothing like Theo of Golden. It is much closer to A Man Called Uva than Theo of Golden could ever be. But I feel like if you liked Theo of Golden, you'd like this one, because they do have some similar ways of thinking, in that, you know, people are important and connection with people are important. And those are very, very, very strong things. There was one thing that I marked in here, so let's find out what that was. So she's talking about her husband and clocks, and you know, she was really sick of the clocks and everything. He said, "He led me over to a broken grandfather and asked me to fix it. I can't fix a clock," I said. "I can't repair time." She set the wrench down and met Henry's gaze. "We're bound by time, all of us." That day, in front of a clock I couldn't fix, I realized that by not paying attention to time, I was inadvertently throwing so much of it away. It's not infinite, but it's important. How we use it, whether or not we go after our dreams. Joey repaired that clock, of course, and me, I learned to clutch time between my trembling fingertips and hold on tight. It just, I loved that. We're bound by time. So what are we going to do? How are we going to use the time? Redeeming the time. Anyway, so yes, because yes. And then I read All Booked Up by Melody Carlson. This is the woman who, you know, she's got a house, big old house. It was her grandparents. You don't really know this, from the synopsis, but it was her grandparents' house, and then her parents lived there, and now she has lived there throughout her, marriage. So she's lived in this house her whole life. And it is a beautiful old Victorian with gingerbread, stunning yards. But her husband died, and she hasn't taken care of it. She's been grieving for the last 18 months. And her daughter thinks she should sell up, get out. She can't really afford it. They took a mortgage out to pay for his medical care, etc. So she really needs to move, but she doesn't want to. And she's got a ton of books. And what would she do with them all? And her daughter's like, burn them. Clearly the daughter's not a reader. So she's just like, yeah, no, not doing that. So she doesn't know what to do. And her friend says, hey, start renting out your rooms. I would rent that ensuite in a heartbeat. I want that. So if you decide to do this, I want that. And she's like, people, when she finds out how much money people will pay for this, it would solve her problems. So she has 4 women who want to move in, and they move in, and all booked up, and she's got all these books, and it's all about this. So you think it's going to be a very bookish book. It really isn't until the end. That at first was a disappointment, and I kind of feel like maybe Melody Carlson kind of lost her way with the bookish part of it, and then realized that it needed that, and she kind of put it back in. But if that's what happened, she did it so well that I don't care. Because for a while there in the middle, I felt like the book, well, for one thing, it feels like it's really predictable. But it's not. It just feels like it is until you really start thinking about it and you realize it's not. There's so much. There was a short section where I felt like the writing was just really generic and a little basic. I don't know. The writing just fell flat for a little bit. And I don't know if it's because I was coming off of 2 really spectacular books. If it was just, a section of her writing, she is going through stuff herself. So, I just didn't know what was going on, but there was just something, and I was afraid it was going to be a 3-star book for a while there. I gave it 5 stars, and I gave it 5 stars because it's one of those things that I keep thinking about afterward, and because of how she wrapped it up. So these 4 women, her name's Reva, and she doesn't like conflict at all. She likes her solitude. She likes quiet and peace. And, having people move in is not quiet or peaceful. So the first gal who moves in is her friend. They've been friends for a long time. Laurel is wonderful and very practical and very assertive. And so she can take care of herself. And she understands Reva. So she kind of leaves Reva alone. Life is good. I don't remember who introduced her to Wendy. Her name is it Summer Wind? I think. September Wind is her name. And her parents were in a commune, and she has kind of rediscovered her bohemian / hippie roots. And Wendy wants to rent the attic upstairs. And Wendy is a free spirit, and she's the one you think is going to cause lots of drama just because she's just very out there and whatever, but she's actually the biggest steadying force of all of them. Wendy turned out to be one of my favorite characters, which totally threw me. Wendy's brother Marcus is the handyman who keeps helping around the place and is just kind of becomes part of their little group. Then we have Fiona, who is a musician. And you would think, she's Irish. She's actually from Ireland. She came over here. She's a musician. They're part of a folk band. And she works as a barista. So Fiona, you might wonder if people are going to have trouble with her, though, with playing the fiddle all the time, whatever. Yeah, Fiona's no problem. Everybody loves Fiona. Life is grand. Laurel also introduced Reva to her hairdresser, Kitty. Now, I'm going to say right away, I was like, what do you think you're doing? Because as soon as Kitty opened her mouth and said she chooses bad men and started wailing in this interview about trying to, get a room here, that, she's terrible with men. And, I'm just like, something not right about you. And sure enough, she is the source of so much drama. She's one of those women who can't be without a man, so she's constantly clinging to all men. Marcus, bless him, is very good with her, but he's just done with her as well. And Laurel discovers that after years of being divorced and completely uninterested in men, she's a little ridiculous over Marcus, who is also just, he's very kind and whatever, but he's not interested. That's very obvious to everyone except for Laurel. It becomes ridiculous to a point where it was funny because I was about ready to take a star off because it was so like junior high meets sorority with blue hair almost. These gals aren't that old or that, whatever, but they are all, around retirement age, and you're just going, no. But we're talking cat fight at the bar. I'm just like, what's going on? They were at this brewery because of the music. Okay, I'm just saying. And Kitty gets sloshed. And it's all about, Laurel and Kitty are terrible. Laurel's ready to leave the house. Everybody wants her to kick Kitty out. And Riva's, I was kind of impressed with the backbone that she develops. And it just isn't willing to write someone off right away. I totally would have kicked Kitty out. Absolutely. Riva is a much, much better person than I am. And she really taught me stuff. And by the time I got done with this book and those, fiction actually comes in and plays a good part of how they kind of come together. So she did, like I said, when she brought the bookishness into it, she brought it in well. So I'll give her that. But what I loved a lot about this book is they keep calling it, I think they actually call it romance. This is women's fiction. There is almost no romance in it. It's more implied. Yeah, they're calling it Christian romance. This is not romance. This is my kind of romance, sure, but this is not a romance. In the synopsis, you get the hint that she and Marcus are going to, strike up a relationship. It doesn't happen in this book. Even in the epilogue, it's so minor. You could take it either way. I loved that though, because what was really cool is Riva's not interested in a relationship. She doesn't want romance. And yet she also acknowledges that she is attracted to and finds things about Marcus really nice to be around. She enjoys him. And she, keeps telling herself it's friendship, but then she starts to doubt herself. And I love the fact that Melody Carson went there, because so often we have these moments where we think one way about something. Something kind of shapes what we think. So we decide that we were wrong instead of acknowledging the fact that, sometimes things look like what they aren't. And it makes me think about women who have a man, like some woman working in an office and one of the men is very complimentary and flattering or whatever. And there's that moment where a woman can go, am I interested? I can't be interested. I'm married. That's, but they can convince themselves. I've seen it happen. I've seen women, I've had women talk to me going, he was so, nice and so understanding. And I started wondering, am I like falling for this guy? Like, no, you're just responding to the fact that someone treated you well. Just remember, this is just somebody at work. You have a husband at home who has committed to you and you have committed to. Just because you acknowledge the fact that an attractive person is treating you well doesn't mean that you're in love with him. And you don't have to go there just because you had this moment of acknowledgement that you appreciate that. And that's what I saw happening here. I saw her acknowledging that she likes the attention, she likes the friendship, and she is uncertain, and yet she sticks by her guns and she knows what she wants. And it hints that maybe this is going to go somewhere. But it doesn't do it in this book. And I'm glad. So if you're looking for romance, this isn't the book for you. If you're looking for a reason why to run and stay far away from, man-hungry people, this is the book for you. No, it was really actually way better than it felt like, even as I was reading some parts of it. Some parts of it, I was like, this is getting a little pedestrian, a little generic, and it doesn't have the oomph. And then it would kick up and it would get some oomph. And it's, it's not the drama that I loved, but the drama like highlighted the things that I loved. And the things I loved most was how Reva kind of came into her own again. You know, she's like figuring out who she is. And I think she thinks, and maybe that's what Melody Carlson wants, is that for her to think that she's rediscovering who she was. I don't think that's how this works. When we get married, we go from a single person to another single unit. You know, we become one with a spouse. If that spouse dies, whether it's 5, 10, 40 years later, we are not the same person that we were back then. We don't go back to being that person. We learn who we are as a single person again. But too much has changed in the middle. I don't even think it works if it's only been a year. I really don't. I think you're two very different after, you know, part of you is gone and now you have to be a single entity again. So anyway, I didn't expect to give it 5 stars for most of the book, but once it got to where it did, I don't think I could give it less. Really loved it, was totally surprised. And last, but absolutely not least, another shocking 5 stars. I was sure I would give Old Herbaceous 4 stars. I you know, when I started it, I was just sure it was going to be a solid 4, maybe 4.5, but definitely solid 4. No, this book is, well, for one thing, it's delightful. If you love gardens, this is a book for you. If you love watching people become who they're meant to be, this is the book for you. If you love seeing how people are affected by and resilient against the world around them, yeah, there's this one. This is delightfully authentic. So Herbert was a foundling. He was left on the door of a farmer's wife, and he has a limp. I think the limp he got in childhood. I think he broke a leg and it wasn't set right or something. But it shows little bits, because it's mostly through his memories, but it shows little bits of him as a child. He discovered that he could like raise the boot of his ice skates, and he could skate as well or better than any other of the boys. And so all of the teasing and the mocking and the bullying that he'd endured kind of disappeared after that. And it gave him enough self-confidence that then, you know, he loved, he would go around with the farmer's wife and she would show him all the, and a teacher. It wasn't just the farmer's wife. The farmer's wife was in the garden area. The teacher would take him all over the woods and show him all the plants, teach him the names, you know, all the things. He entered a flower show when he was really little. And that's where he meets the woman who becomes his employer for like 60 years. So when he was still a boy, he graduates from school. They're all supposed to go work on the farm afterwards. They go to the vicar. The vicar says, what do you want to be? And the boys all say, oh, I want to go to the farms. And then off to the farms they go. Well, this kid's like, he's like, you ready to go to the farms? And this kid's like, no. He does not want to work on the farms, and the vicar doesn't know what to do with it. He's just appalled. He's like, surely you want to. He's like, no, I don't. You asked. I don't want to go. And it's so fun. This young wife, Charlotte, I don't remember her name. It's not Carstairs, but we're going to call her Carstairs because I just can't remember. But she's a young wife. She's just new in the village. And she's like, why should he go if he doesn't want to go? And the vicar's like, you've only been here for a short little time. You don't know how this works. And she was like, you weren't in the garden at all, but you think you know how that works? I don't think so. You know, it was pretty funny. She's, you know, Garden of Eden, right? And so she takes him home to be an undergardener to her head gardener, who is, you know, he's one of those men who, you know, the old way is the best way. And you would think that that would make Herbert like resist and push against it and want to do things his way. But actually he learns so much from this guy. And in a sense, he becomes very much like that guy. And yet in other ways he doesn't. He learns so much, and you just follow him through his life, through all of the things. I only marked 3 spots. But it's just delightfully authentic. He's one of those characters that feels like he should be perfect, but he's totally not and is and isn't all at the same time. It literally takes him all the way through to the end, and it's beautiful. I loved it. I felt like I was in England, and yeah, just so cool. So I'm going to see what these little quotes are. It's near the end. It says, he's talking to someone who has treated him badly. There's still room for a bit of kindness in the world. And the next time you feel like taking a shortcut across people's feelings when you want to get somewhere in a hurry, you might bear that in mind. I'm going to read that again because that's how good that is. There's still room for a bit of kindness in the world. And the next time you feel like taking a shortcut across people's feelings when you want to get somewhere in a hurry, you might bear that in mind. Yeah. So I'm just going to say that was a good reading week. And I'm going to leave this here because, yeah. So what'd you read this week? Have you done the next book tag? Are you going to? You want to put the answers in the comments and we all talk about them? That would be nice. But this is what I read. And I'm very, very happy with all of them. Can't believe that I have 4 5-star reads right here. And I'm listening to a 5th. And has anyone read that one D.E. Stevenson? Am I going to like it? Little nervous because Google said it was a little like Wuthering Heights. And I'm like, and I think it means in tone and in nature versus nurture type thing more than the actual story, but still I'm like, I'm a little nervous. I will be back on Friday with the what I love in books, since I did the what I hate, and I'll see you then.